Hey Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. I know it's real late, folks, and I apologize for that. But for those of you guys who are still awake and still watching me, I'm going to demonstrate how I cooked that wonderful meal yesterday. I say meal. This is going to be a pasta cream sauce based pork chop meal, okay? It's just going to be the pork chops, the pasta, and the cream based sauce. Now you can add whatever you want to. You can add vegetables, you can add your starches like your breads, you can add also your grains and all that, okay? But this is just the meal itself, okay? And I'm going to teach you how to do that right now. So let's start it off. What kinds of things are you going to need? You're going to need a few ingredients. You're going to need soy sauce, okay? Any brand will do. Heavy cream, heavy whipping cream, beef stock, okay, I like to use tequila lime rub, barbecue rub, okay, and I'll show you why here in just a second. It's going to give the pork chop amazing flavor. So you're going to need tequila lime barbecue rub. Any brand will do. You're going to need garlic salt. And I use flavor enhancer. This particular product is made by Accent, and you can get it at your supermarket. Walmart, Giant, Ralph's, Avon's, anywhere you can find this. And last but not least, I love the name of this product. It's kind of funny, but it's Cajun seasoning. It's called Slap Your Mama. I don't recommend you do it, but that's what this is. Cajun seasoning, okay? Now, there's two more ingredients that we're going to use today. We're going to use olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, okay? I put it in a bottle like this to make it more usable and easy to release, okay? And there's one more ingredient you're going to need. Good old butter. I'm going to be using spreadable country crock, okay? That's it. That's all you're going to use, folks. Okay. I went ahead and prepped a couple of parts. So what we're going to do, you're going to need to thaw out a pork chop. This is about the size of the pork chop. So this is my hands, and this is the size of it. Not too big, not too small. I promise you, it's the perfect portion, okay? So I went ahead and thawed this. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to prep this, okay? And you're also going to need pasta. Now, I went ahead and pre-prepped this by cooking this the night before, but the results are still the same. If you were to do this the first night for your folks, my suggestion to you is to do it with linguine or spaghetti, okay? You can also do it with linguine if you want to, but fettuccine, because it's the thicker one, but I recommend you use linguine or spaghetti, okay? Now, you're going to want to use a pretty decent portion, and there's a couple of things I'm going to suggest to you. There's a few tricks to your spaghetti that will help make it cook properly and more effectively and taste better, okay? And easier to work with. So, first trick, you're going to need to take some kosher salt and sprinkle it in the pot, the water pot, okay? And you're going to want enough to cover the pot that you're cooking the pasta in, okay? You're going to want to make sure it soaks in there. You don't want it just enough to cook like a steam, but you're going to want it full. The second thing you're going to need to do, remember that EVOO? We're going to be using quite a big portion of this, okay? You're just going to need a couple of dabs inside the pot. And the reason for that is because it's an oil. It's going to adhere to your noodles, and it's going to make them not stick to each other. It's not that they're not going to cook right, but they're not going to stick to each other. Like, if I were to dump this out, folks, it's all going to stick together. That wouldn't happen if you use EVOO on the noodles. So that's the second thing I would recommend. And the third thing, make your pasta boil for quite a while as it's cooking, and it will make it al dente and cook it just a little bit longer, and it will come out perfect, I promise you. Because you don't want a real brittle pasta consistency. You want enough consistency to be able to twirl it on your fork, because the cream is going to hold it all together, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and reheat my pasta so we can use this when we put the cream sauce all over the top, and then lay that pork chop on top of that, okay? So let's go and do that now. Okay, now while that is reheating, let me go ahead over to the prep table and show you how we're gonna prep this pork chop. You ready? Come on, let's go. Okay, so the second thing you're gonna need also is you're gonna need a prepping surface. This is just an ordinary plastic sheet, okay? Plastic mat, okay? I can bend it, roll it, twist it, you name it. But this is gonna help you make cleanup a lot easier. And also, it's gonna help you make less of a mess, okay? So you're gonna lay that down on your surface. And you're gonna take your seasonings that you used, and we're going to add them, okay? Your tequila lime, your garlic salt, your flavor enhancer, and your Cajun seasoning. Before you do anything else, when you touch raw food, what do? You clean your hands. If you wanted to save that step, I guess you could wear rubber gloves, but it defeats the purpose of cooking, right? If you're doing it in your own home. Take it out of the pouch or the package. And just rinse off the stuff that it's been sitting in while it's frozen, and just kind of let it get it a workable consistency, okay? Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my tequila lime rub, okay? And just ever so attentively sprinkle it on there, and pat it down, if you will, to make sure it's really in there, okay? And now flip it over. Okay? And if you need to, just work it in, okay? It's not going to help, or I'm sorry, it's not going to do any bad to do that, hence the name rub. That's why it was made, to rub into the meat, okay? It basically replaces your marinade, so you got to work it into the fibers of the meat for it to work properly, okay? I'm going to also use the flavor enhancer So just put a little bit of that on there. Not too much, just a little. Okay. I'm going to use the garlic salt. Okay. Just put a little bit on there. And the final ingredient is the Cajun seasoning. Not too much, just a little. Okay. That's it. Oh, it smells so good. Okay. While that has time to work into the fiber of the pork, because that's what you're after, you want to really let that flavor soak in the fibers, okay? Really get it working. And that's what it's doing right now, is it's working its way into the inner parts of the meat, the tissues of it, okay? So we'll leave that here for just a tad, okay? Let it work its thing. You're going to take your EVOO and you're going to splash a little bit in there, okay? About that much. All right? Now, turn your stove on and let that heat a little bit. When you work with oil, okay, you don't want to put the meat in, let it get hot and start cooking. You want it to be hot so that when you put it in there, it starts to sizzle immediately, okay? That's the best way of cooking, all right? I promise you, I've done this myself. It works. Now, you don't have to wait for the pan to get hot to put the oil in. You can put the oil in first, then let it get hot, and then cook with it. Now, once that gets hot, I'm also going to take me some butter and let that get warm in there as well. Now, I warn you, you don't want the butter to get cooked over well, okay? You don't want to overcook your butter. So when it starts to get a little brown, that's when you start putting your pork chops in, okay? Sometimes some of this part is kind of a waiting game. I am doing this live, by the way, so you're doing it in just the same amount of time that I'd be cooking it myself. The only difference is I've got the spaghetti already cooking, all right? And it's pretty much ready. So I'm kind of cheating here, okay? I'm showing you how to cook the pork chop portion of this whole meal, okay? Because the cream is where it's all going to come together. So good. So good. This is a technique I've learned. When you have your oil, you can get to where you tilt the pan around. When it just runs all over the pan, that's when you know it's getting to that point that you can start to cook. So now I take my butter. About that much. About half this spoon, okay? And drop it in there, okay? Okay. now's the time to drop them in. Okay. Remember, you don't want to overcook your butter. Okay. You hear that sizzle? It's time to hear it sizzle even again. Drop it right on in there. This is just like cooking any other food. The more you play with it, the less it's going to cook, and the less it's going to cook the way you want it. So cook it the right way by not moving it and not touching it too much. You can go ahead and put the butter and your spices away if you'd like to at this time. You're not going to need it again. You see how you have a little bit of color? Not too much, but just enough. Pretty much done, okay, the pork chop itself. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the heavy grease. This is where stirring is going to come important because you don't want it to thicken too much. Okay? I'm adding a little bit of soy, not too much, just a little bit, to give it that flavor. want to, you can spoon that over top your pork chop so it gives the pork chop even more flavor. Alternative method, you can also take your tongs and flip over your pork chop so that it's cooking in the sauce. Right now, it's a pretty good consistency on where I want it. Let me go and give you a closer view. You guys see how it's thickening? That's about the consistency you want it, okay? You don't want it too thick, just thick enough to be able to coat your pasta, okay? So, as it's cooking, it's basically reducing the consistency. And there's one more ingredient I forgot that's gonna help hold all this together. The beef stock. Go ahead and just stir that around. Make sure it's all together. And that's it, folks. That's how I make my pork chop pasta. Oh, so good. I would pay money, folks, to get this at a restaurant. Money. Try it. Go home and try it. Now, you can use different ingredients, but this came out phenomenal for me, so you should try it too. A bit of olive oil. Work it into the pasta. Take off the pan from the burner. Okay. Okay. Now, what's going to happen is I'm going to make this and take this into work for lunch. But when you plate it, put the pasta first in a nice little blanket, then take the cream sauce and drizzle it over. Take the pork chop, put it right on top, right in the very center, very gently, and then take your cream sauce and drizzle it all over the pasta, and mwah, you have a golden, delicious, succulent, mouth-watering pork chop meal in your life. I guarantee it. Time to take out the pork chop. Okay. See? Right in the middle. And you're just going to take your sauce. Give it a little stir. And pour that right over. So good. Your husband or your family are going to love you when you make this. And there you have it. cream-based pork chop pasta. What do you think? Pretty good, huh? Alright, I love you guys. I'm glad you watched my video. If you haven't, go ahead and check it out. Alright, and try it. Let me know what you think. Alright, see if you have any suggestions or tips and whatnot. But, as always, I'm on the flip side. This is Sean. I love y'all, and God bless. Have a good one. Bye-bye.